Well, hello my friends. This is our last piece for the Coloring Pages series, and oh, this one was a fun one. They all have been super fun. I've enjoyed them all, each one using the slightly different materials. So I want to quickly go over what I used in the materials. So for the background, I put down some vintage papers, and several of these papers are actually free in the resource library. I'll have links to that down below. If you're a subscriber, you have the password. If not, you can sign up and get the password. So then on top of that, I used my cracked stencil to kind of get this kind of crackly feel with some just regular gesso kind of pushed through it to kind of get up against the sides of the stencil to create some texture and some interest. And then I went back over it with just a little bit more gesso with my palette knife just to kind of mix it up a little bit and just really grungy it up. Then I did a glaze over it, and I used raw umber and glazing medium. The DecoArt's glazing medium is great for the price. It's available everywhere, so that's a really affordable glazing medium if you have never used any before. So I did a glaze over that and then kind of pulled it back and used some alcohol to kind of pull all of it back. Then I used a regular piece of parchment paper and just put some gesso down and kind of did some pressing. It's a great way to push back your background without completely deleting it and still being able to have some inconsistent kind of texture kind of thing. And you'll see that in the video. Then after I did all of that, then I printed out my coloring page. And I always print, as I've said before, I always print multiple pages of my coloring page in case I want to do some collage or some different things. I have the option. But this one I printed on tissue paper and put it on top of my background. And so I just want to show you, I just cut a piece of regular tissue paper to fit. This is an 8.5 by 11 size paper. It's like a presentation paper. It's a little bit thicker, not much, because you can see how flexible it is and everything. It's a little bit thicker than regular copy paper, but not as heavy as cardstock. But you could use regular copy paper. And then I tape it all the way across the top. Here's my tissue paper, and then I will tape it all the way across the bottom, making sure that there aren't any edges that stick out. It's really important to tape it all the way across, making sure that there's no tape sticking across the edges or anything like that. Then you turn it, I turn it over, or however it feeds into your printer, and then you can print that out onto your tissue paper. Then you put your tissue paper down. I take it off my paper, and I put my tissue paper down with my design. And the key to getting good tissue paper adhesion onto your surface without getting kind of that halo effect, if you have a super dark background, sometimes it doesn't completely go away. But when it's on a lighter background, you don't even see that there's tissue paper except for the texture. The key to that is a fluid matte medium, and I will show you. The more fluid, the better. If you use matte gel, if you have matte gel, water it down so that's really, really fluid. And you'll see how much matte medium I had on my background before I put my tissue paper down. That's the key to getting a good placement of your tissue paper and having it completely disappear. It needs to just be saturated with that fluid matte medium. And then I will take my tissue paper and just place it down into that matte medium and kind of let it soak in, and then pat it down. And then I'll take just a regular, paper towel. If I've pat it down and if it's starting to come through, I might, pat some of that up. Then I take my paintbrush, and this is really important. So I've got all the extra matte medium. I'm working from the inside out this way, because if you go like this, your tissue paper, once it's into that matte medium, it becomes very fragile. So I work from the inside out, getting all the air bubbles out, and then I will come back over and get the rest of the matte medium all over the place, and then I'll take a paper towel and just kind of pat it up a little bit, and then let it dry, and it comes out perfect. Perfect every time. One of my favorite things to do. And then so I put my coloring page down, my tissue paper coloring page, and I knew that I wanted to add some extra pieces to it, but I wanted them behind the actual piece, look like it was coming out from behind. And so that's when I cut my mask. And I use a mask a lot when I'm working with my coloring pages because I can cover it up. So you can see I knew exactly where I wanted my pieces to go. And so I cut that out, and then I could stencil over wherever I wanted to stencil. So I just added all my extra leaves without worrying about getting any of that on what I've got already. And it looks like it's coming from behind. So use your masks, and you could use it in many different ways. And then I just added some extra sprigs of leaves and things, just freehand out here. Trying to think. So I used the spring leaves stencil, and I also used the number stencils because I wanted it was real soft and flowery, but I wanted just a little bit of edge. And I'm always a numbers person. And so again, I used my mask and just put my mask down, and then stenciled right over it, and it looks like it's coming out from behind the piece. I used my Flower Gang 5 for the flowers that are up here, and I'm trying to think. I used my charcoal pencil, and then I got out my soft pastels, and these are Soho soft pastels. I love these. They're very reasonable. You get a huge set of colors. All these came in one set for a really reasonable price, and I'll have a link to those. But there's a lot of different, I have all different kinds of soft pastels, and soft pastels are a chalk. It's not oil pastels, but I have all different kinds. But the reason I like these is because they're in between a super soft pastel and a harder one like this. This is a harder one. So these are a good mid-range, mid-price, mid-everything. And the soft pastels are what made this, in my opinion, come to life. All the different colors, adding all the bits of highlights and all that, all soft pastel. And then I did my shading with my charcoal pencil and my shading around the edge with my black soft pastel. But what I did do was I did spray Krylon's Workable Fixative. I typically will use Spectrafix, which is an all-natural, no odor kind of thing. But because I was using so much pastels and charcoal, I needed something a little stronger, and Krylon is that has that strength to hold it in place until you can get your final coat over this. And then I will just put a coat of fluid matte medium over the top of this and set everything, and then it's good to go. But you have to put your fixative down first, otherwise everything's going to smear. Okay, my dears, I hope you are all managing your like quarantine time. I don't know how many are still in quarantine, if we'll ever be out of quarantine. I just don't know. But I'm doing all of these mini-series kind of things to help give you some things to do while you're home to distract from everything that's going on, and give you just a little bit of peace of mind in your creative time. All right, my loves, so let's get creating.
Mm-hmm.